principle that we're going to cover is create a learning organization. This is the center of our house image because fundamentally I believe it's the most important. Lean is all about a learning journey. You're learning how to achieve what you aspire to achieve. And because it's in the middle, it helps inspire what the other four principles really mean. Why do we do direct observation? Well, we do it to learn what actually happened or is happening. When we apply systematic waste elimination, we're actually seeing new waste and uncovering why our system is getting the results that it is. In systematic problem solving, we're learning to understand cause and effect and understand why we're getting the results that we're getting. And establishing high agreement, we don't want to just set a standard and forget it. We want to actually improve to the next standard and the next one after that. And so create a learning organization is as much about the other four principles as it does stand on its own. But we'll explore what it does mean as you apply it on its own. One way to get into the behaviors and mindset of creating a learning organization is to really distinguish the learner model from the knower model. The learner model begins with observation. Now, whether this is data or eyeballs or models or study, the fundamental idea is that you are observing, you are trying to gather ground truth, understanding how things are. You then move on to develop a hypothesis. Now, you can learn more in a video on Rule 4 in Lean Work Design, more about developing a hypothesis, but fundamentally, you have a theory, an idea, a concept, a belief about cause and effect. So you have an idea that you then want to test and really study the results to understand how well you actually understood current reality in the first place. Now, that's a learner model, and whether it's a big giant strategic change or simply changing how you walk in from the parking lot or changing a core work process, it can follow that model regardless of what tools or methods you actually use. Now, the knower model is a little bit different. It begins with assumptions. We assume we know everything we need to know about current reality. Since we know, we can jump to solutions. And once we have our solutions, we go ahead and we implement those solutions, and then we move on to the next step. So perhaps the best summary of a learning organization or a learning mindset is, as you approach every decision, every action, whether strategic or microscopically tactical, are you approaching it as a learner or are you approaching it as a knower? Now, it used to be that we would describe, that person is a learner, that person is a knower, but I really don't believe that to be true. It's really about the right opportunities. How many of those decisions do you face? Do you approach the decision as a learner, or do you approach the decision as a knower? None of us can live in learner mode every second of the day. So it's about being in this mode enough, and it's about being in it in the right moments. So you aren't inherently, as a person, a learner or a knower. It's that opportunity in front of you, that next opportunity, and how you choose to approach it. Another common model when thinking about the principle of creating a learning organization is the concept of PDCA, or Plan, Do, Check, Act, represented here. Now, it's certainly, when used as its core form, it's a model that supports a learning organization, but it still depends on how you think about it. Plan really depends on you studying the problem, coming up with an approach. You do an experiment. That part is where you test it and really learn from it, which is your check. Did you get the result you were expecting to get? And from there, you can move on to go back and study more or standardize your solution. But if you approach PDCA and just treat it like a model in a learner mindset, there's plenty of organizations that practice PDCA but don't get the learner part. They plan, which is they document their assumptions. They do, they have a solution. They check. Check is then just a project management check. Did you do the task that you said you were going to do? And then act is essentially moving on. Right? So the heart really is this check part. All of it matters throughout how you think about it, But when you do check, are you treating it like, did I do the task? Or did the result produce the outcome that I wanted? That starts to distinguish PDCA from a knower approach versus the learner approach that we want. Now, in most of this course, we're not going deep into tools, but just to demonstrate another aspect in addition to experimentation and being a learner that goes along with creating a learning organization is the concept of reflection. Now, reflection can take place in a lot of ways. We're fundamentally looking at things that have happened, reflecting on what we can learn from that so we have lessons to move forward. So a very effective tool for reflection is the after-action review. It's really started in the U.S. Army, but has taken a life into its own and certainly become part of a lean thinking organization. Now, it's basically 4 core questions that you can ask. What was supposed to happen? The key of this question is to really look back and see, did we even have a standard? Or did we have a different idea of what was supposed to happen? Second, what actually did happen and why? So this goes back to the common theme of understanding cause and effect and learning from that. Which leads us to 3, what can we learn from this? Right? Both the good and the bad. What worked that we want to sustain, what didn't work that we want to fix. Most people focus more of their energy on what went wrong, but I think what went right is actually more valuable learning because it won't go right again on its own. We have to actually capture that lesson and standardize it to get it sustained. And then last, and perhaps most importantly, is what are we going to do differently next time? If we don't actually take action based on a reflection, then it's just idle thoughts. So you can take this form and plug it into a daily practice, a shift, a hiring practice, a strategic planning cycle, really anything that has any sort of repeated cycle. You can take this simple reflection structure and build it in to help drive your learning behaviors. A more advanced learning organization has the opportunity to learn proactively. What I mean by that is they look ahead to the opportunities to learn and plan for their learning. This is an example of what that cycle might look like. Before they go into an event, they select a learning focus. Maybe this is about interruptions, maybe it's about alignment, maybe it's about speed, but they want to learn more from that event in a particular area. They then observe their way through the event and then perform a topic-focused after-action review at the end. They can then return, select a new learning focus, and use the next event to dig even deeper. The point of this is that we start getting purposeful in our learning as opposed to just take what the world gives us in terms of learning opportunities. Now this principle, as well as the other 4, really depend upon you finding ways to integrate them into your work, into your system, into your life. They're not just for the video, they're not just for a course, they're certainly not just to write up on the wall. Ultimately, you have to live these principles through behaviors, and you have to design your work to help you apply these principles each and every day. Then you can truly become a sustainable, lean organization.